Like, I was like,
Oh my god. And Logan. Logan would totally do that. What Logan does is he switches the first letter of each word. Like says like maybe don't. I'm not gonna say it, but he does it all the time. He just annoys.
Yeah, but if you're telling a story about how ashamed of your brother you are, you shouldn't mimic him. It's just,
Yeah.
That's how it works.
and then 5 minutes later say how cool he is.
It's like with their kids at the daycare would be like
it's so good being in Arizona because he wasn't going to work.
but it's like you do realize you just said it also.
You just said poop
Yeah.
that too.
It's like it doesn't give
It's
you
like
permission to just
the
say
kids
it
are
just
so
to
funny.
tattle.
It's so funny when kids like, don't get mad at me for saying it, but this person said this. I love kids, I don't like kids. It's like anyone from Juniper's age to like the whole kids. I like in between.
I realize Jennifer's still a baby.
She's still a baby, but she can like crawl and kind of talk and kind of walk. At 7 months old, today, 12 years ago, I was 7 months old and I was walking around the thing. 7 months old. And I was just like, walking around, having a great time. And my mom was like, so did you. Dinky! Are you in
All y'all middle schoolers, can you help me set up some chairs?
Yeah, I was assuming that's gonna happen. Yes.
Boys in the hall.
Like, Animal Crossing, I have no idea. Because I haven't played 2 of the Animal Crossing. Sorry, I don't know. I got excited. Animal Crossing.
I hate this game.
Oh no!
This game's so annoying.
I actually haven't played it, so I don't know.
It's so annoying.
I've never.
Why is it annoying?
Because I never win. I won like once. I went to Elena, the TV. She doesn't really know how to work the TV. And then she'll start screaming at the TV, saying how it doesn't like her.
Elena? See, I want
Like,
little
lady,
siblings.
you just gotta like point it at the TV, not just like point
The
at
block.
I don't know, but my Grammy does not like these pants. What is wrong with them?
The pants.
because you wear them like every week.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like when Ansel was purposely ripping his pants.
That does drive me nuts.
So fucking.
Like sometimes he does it way too
I don't think
like up, where it should not be ripped.
Sitting up.
No, it drives me nuts because it doesn't even look good. No, he rips them up to here. Of course it's not. He takes his pants and then he rips it up to here. Like,
Ansel is special. I've known Ansel for like a long.
There's one more controller if you want to play here.
trust me, the game is rigged.
The game's rigged.
Is.
One might look.
Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry. Oh, can I be green? Where do you think that? I'm gonna be like all green and have an awesome motorcycle helmet. Okay. You okay? I'm ready. I'm like all green. Oh, I think it meant so. I'm gonna have. Oh, so Alan, we were at the Paradise Truck Light Parade thing, and because of how they were all going out, the traffic was
Okay,
long,
you
and there was a
gotta say you're ready.
motorcycle.
There you go.
There was a motorcycle, and he was stuck in the traffic. So I got out of the car, even though it was freezing, because like only 5 of them had gone through. So I was just I got up and took a picture of him, and then Maya was like, "Did you seriously come up here to take a picture?" But she kept saying up here. I was like, I didn't go up anywhere. I walked out of the car to take a picture. And then she told all her friends, acting like it was like such a big deal, but it really, it wasn't. But it was
This
funny.
game's stupid. No
Can
one
I
should
sit
play
over
it.
there so it's not confusing for me?
Can we drift like in Mario Kart?
Yeah.
No, come with me.
Yes.
I have a friend.
Have you not played this?
No, I haven't. I don't know how to do it. Oh. I don't know the controls. What are the controls?
Steering.
Well, like how to.
There's also a brake if you
which one are you?
I died.
You want to try?
You guys should stay on like the
Sure, which one are
very
you?
center because the center goes faster than the outside.
Which cube?
Bottom.
Left?
Right.
Right?
I'm the dead green body.
You're
Why would I
taking
be
the...
any other color?
Okay, we get it, Daniel. You won.
Why did we
No,
all
I-
decide to be green?
You have to do all the checkpoints.
Well, you have the most check.
I have nearly all the checkpoints.
So they're not in name. I think, but I know some of them are.
But this one.
They're all pretty
Darn it! All that time and I still lost.
Victoria's in main.
I died.
Okay, I'm gonna try this.
I-
How does this work?
I'm really good at Mario Kart, but whenever I play with you game, I'm so bad.
How does this work?
Oh no, player 1 and 4 are just doomed. We just can't.
How did I...
This level doesn't work for 4 players.
This is why I stopped.
How did I die?
Because you were stuck.
Okay, I gotta see if I hold in my steering if I can get this.
Wait, so how does this one work?
Oh no!
What?
Wrong way.
Give me an exception.
How did... Let's change the map.
How do you accelerate?
I don't know.
That's the thing. That's why I was confused. I was like, how do you?
It's a backwards level. You're supposed to do it backwards. It doesn't work with 4 players though. 'Cause
Yeah,
we're,
so
we're
we
too
should
fat
change
when
the
they start
level.
4 players.
God
All right, let's pick a different level. Sorry, I didn't know 4 players would break it.
Mario Kart's better.
Okay, I'm confused.
What's the point of this?
No.
I missed.
Alan, we believe in you. Never mind, we don't believe in you. Alan.
I lost. This game's stupid.
I do too.
This is why I hate this game.
You are an amazing sport, by the way.
Thank you.
That's why
He's
he's so
trash.
good at the sports he's good at.
No.
You're at why? Why is Crash a
I
person?
can't. It's not.
You get
The
good
other
at
day I was
Mario
mad
Kart.
at disc golf, so I threw the basket.
All right, these are hard.
Yeah, I'm not.
Let's go for the heli jump.
Wanna play.
Can you stop?
Oh, I guess we're doing the jump. Not the heli jump.
Do you have to click any button to move forward?
No, it's purely gravity and momentum.
That's so
Oh,
weird.
I
I
just
don't.
like other person's.
So don't hit each other at the start.
Alan, you should use the pool table. As
How'd
a
you
better,
lose
like,
2
pool.
opposite wheels?
teaching me basketball.
Teapot head.
Like the pool table's
You
big.
have wheels left.
Well, it's easier to say. I don't have to move as
Okay,
much.
don't steer. Don't steer. Don't steer.
Poor Alan.
Oh, you killed me.
I mean, I'm not.
You smashed me so hard I insta-died.
Oh, and I just
Oh!
like that crack.
Hey, I'm winning.
That is a strong word for what's happening right now.
I'm gonna kill this guy. I'm gonna kill this kid.
Yes.
I'm coming to kill this
Yes.
You
kid.
guys already missed the checkpoint. There's no way to get back up there.
I'm not even
Right.
playing.
Just hit Y. You can't win.
I can win. I'm gonna crash into
This
Kira.
game's stupid.
No.
I died.
Kira, I want to crash into you.
I think we gotta
I don't know.
redo that.
I don't know how to do this.
Oh.
Hit the Y button! Alright, we'll pick some easier
No.
levels.
I
These are all
don't
hard.
like this. It's.
They're all hard.
I can play. I'm right-handed, but I can play Overwatch,
Hey, my
With
my
my
pot
left hand.
launched off.
but
Okay,
only my
let's
left
not
hand.
do a con level. Con's hard. Let's go.
Ooh, I like that room.
That looks
Because girls are slow.
Yeah, you should see a
Oh,
women's World Cup. I thought it was half the speed.
Can you guys stop bumping into me? It's not very
good. It'd be really cool
I
if we had to
crashed
stop
into
bumping
the
into you.
wall.
Yeah. You like that?
Don't we all?
Well, if you're saying fast, you should see our dance teacher's jump combination.
Dude, they're so hard.
See. Oh,
Oh, I got in time. You should sit.
No. Thank you.
I'm guessing
I missed!
Okay.
Yeah. She's.
How were you supposed to make that?
Okay.
Okay, Daniel, you
I
have to
probably
make
wouldn't
this.
have been paying attention.
Failure.
Oh no! Oh no! I didn't see that turn! It was too dark! Ah, no! No! I was
Oh,
doing
never
so
mind.
good!
Daniel's the pencil. Somehow
I
he
was
made
doing...
it.
I lost a wheel.
Well, you should come to one of Will's
Oh no, someone
basketball
lost their controller.
games. They're really fun to watch.
Turn your back on.
I ought to see.
one time.
Beach didn't even hang out with us
You
though.
can hit
He
the
did the roller.
Oh no!
She didn't even like say hi to me.
Oh, nuts.
Everyone, you're fine. Just pick what the characters that you have already.
Yeah. It
Doing
was
this
so
game.
fun.
Okay, everyone come and push yes.
Here, go back.
No one cares, yes.
Everyone just has a flower hat. Someone's not in. Wait, who's not in?
My controller, but I'm not gonna play because it's confusing a bit.
Hey, how's it going, Grace?
He appeared.
She's doing good. She's a
I
good
want
boy.
Emily to be
Emily
here.
will probably be here today.
Yes!
Wait, why are you stirring me up level?
Okay.
Stop.
I don't like babies, but I like babies.
Oh, that was me! Silly me.
I don't like them, but I like them.
I thought I was the other
cape. Logan would like this a lot.
If I can spin at least. Where's Logan? Hey, I made
Bubby's
it.
downstairs drumming.
Oh no!
He didn't make up early enough. He didn't
man.
make it down in time.
Oh, you're dead. Wait, how was the last person alive? The guy in second. What?
I woke up at like 8:30.
Oh, I'm
and I
alive.
got up and
What
played
did I land on?
And then I was
What is this?
Yeah,
Is this the plane of infinity? This is just an infinite
That's why I
space
watched
now?
shows.
Alright, I quit.
yeah, I hung out with her a lot on Sunday because I hadn't seen her for a while.
That was my hand.
I wanted to
I
hang
gotta
out with
try
her,
and
but I
stick
didn't
that
want her
landing. That
to
was
be
good.
like, oh no, Kira, come back.
I didn't realize which
So
one was the
I
same.
like
better.
But I also
You
got
guys
to hang
stop
out with
getting
her
into my way. It's not very nice.
so I don't go. We took her to the movies because we have an extra ticket.
I'm not trying to, my god. I'm trying to get down.
Yeah, because
I want to make this jump this time. No!
So we went to
Oh, this is the last second.
and we were just like, we have an extra ticket, and then my mom invited Victoria. So she went.
He's
I
alive.
see you.
He's
So like, I got to
winning.
hang out with her yesterday, so it's not that big of a deal that I'm not hanging out
Don't go
with her.
down, go up. Stay,
And
try and
also,
go down a
I'm kind
little.
of like
Just a little
socially
bit.
just like,
So you can stay on the wall.
because also like, I have a basketball game, and I'm going to be going to basketball games. They're so fun to watch.
Get
I don't
straight,
know
get straight,
why.
get straight, get straight.
Watch yourself
fun to watch.
Arms up, arms up!
by pressing one.
Hey, you made it.
For some jumps. For some jumps you have to, and you can kind of tell.
I don't understand.
If the jump in
how
front of you, the
it's
landing
fun.
pad,
It's fun.
looks like it's dead even with you, you probably gotta go.
So yeah, I've only gone to
You
so far, but
float just a little bit more. You don't fall as fast.
Wait, is X arms up?
A,
No, I'm, like,
A is arms up.
independent.
You just hold it when you want to go arms up. It also makes your car stop spinning if it's currently like spinning end over end, like nose over tail.
You guys
you'll start
made me
to have
go up and then I
think
fell.
about it.
more momentum
Everywhere
towards putting
it's,
your
like,
arms straight up in the air.
Time zone different.
This
Like
game is
Idaho and
dumb.
Arizona.
Everyone
are
keeps
an hour
pushing
ahead.
me up and then I fall.
No!
Or
My was saying that. I was like, that's not what? They are Christmas 1 hour before us. Because the time change.
That stopped.
And she
we
just
still know how to make the jumps now. Okay, I'll let you guys go ahead so you guys don't mess me up. You're messing me up! I literally said don't mess me up. Don't mess me up.
Yeah, kind of. But
See?
Alright, backwards. Oh, darn, I couldn't steer backwards. I'm not good at
Okay,
that.
no, get in my way.
it's fun, and we have like all these games.
It's
and, like,
me who
pretty
needs to
common things. But yeah, we go White Elephant gift exchange. See, it's fun because there's like silly stuff. But
Stop.
You actually get good stuff. It's
Oh,
like
I might not
I know
have
that's
strong enough.
sabotage right
I might be fast enough now to stay out of your guys' hair.
now. Stop. Now I'm going backwards.
because we were talking about.
I told her you need to
There
come
we
to church
go.
on Sunday.
Dylan is.
She just opened it on Snapchat.
She
and didn't say
is.
No, I went too high. I should not arms up there.
So like.
That is a bad arms up spot.
But I was still very nice to her, and
I don't know how to
wanted
win.
help her. But and like she was sobbing when she had. Because after summer,
Oh,
she
dude, I
like
don't think I'm gonna
she
live.
went to
I have so little momentum.
But I miss her, and I was
Nope,
talking about her
I'm
yesterday
out.
because we just mentioned Dylan Patton. Somebody named Dylan.
I was way
like,
too slow that time because my landing was bad. Okay, so you cannot arms up on that first jump. You need to go low.
but like,
What's up?
yeah,
I think Kira's is actually already on. Did you grab that one? Let me turn this on.
the name Dylan.
Okay,
I'm
me and
good.
you, bud. Me and you.
So she had like multiple friends, and I was kind of just middle school. But I like made a deal with her. I was like, hey, don't talk about this stuff, and I will keep being your friend. And she did really that, and I like.
Don't
I'm
arms up.
glad
Don't.
that she respected.
You gotta stay low for this jump.
Hey, she was so
close to the church.
Yeah, that's weird. You must not have had much speed then.
So you don't want to have your thumbs up?
No, because when I hit that jump at full speed, I go through the jump. I barely make the landing. I decided to try and stop.
Okay, this one was hard.
I was top
Same
left.
stuff I say.
Okay, wait, so I'm gonna back out so we can get Grade 6.
Mateus. Oh my gosh, that kid has everybody says he has.
It's gonna work.
Really? So, I don't want that. No, Mateus is just Mateus, and that's all it ever means. Like, honestly, no offense to him, but he's just like
So we'll go over to split screen. Go left. Micah, can you go over to split screen? No? Oh, okay.
He was Mateus was always talked about. Oh yeah, he was one of the guys who started college.
And then he missed.
Oh
He
yeah.
missed again. Then he missed again.
Like he
and then he
was like,
I got one.
what are you doing?
Tetris.
Why are you doing
But
this?
like he was like always talking about tricky
You
towers.
should do Puyo Puyo.
Yeah, that's what I literally just said.
Well, I
quietly,
said it
though.
Towers.
better.
I said it quietly.
Those are two different games.
Yeah,
Puyo
but
Do
Puyo.
you guys want to play a different
Tricky Towers.
tricky towers.
As I call it,
tricky
Tilted
towers.
Towers.
Or we could play Smash Bros.
No,
Bro,
Daniel.
we're not
Yes,
playing
Daniel.
Fortnite.
Good,
Freaking
Daniel.
not
hate
going to.
Fortnite.
Yeah, let's play Fortnite.
Got mad for a sec.
Let's play Fortnite,
It just it doesn't make sense.
Wait, have you
because
either played
But
Fortnite?
I
I played it like
You cannot play split screen Fortnite on the PC.
I played Fortnite like once, but it
Oh.
doesn't make sense because I'm so used to playing Overwatch that
Well,
it makes
then
no
you
sense.
keep on
and then
trying
the building,
it.
the building, it
No,
makes
I
no
never-
sense.
The building.
I just
I
play it.
don't know how to build like it just.
Who's not in? Who's not in? Micah, are you in?
I love this game.
Let's not.
falling apart.
Let's play.
Falling
that
apart.
was like the
They're just
They're just.
They're just not that good. Football.
Yeah, they're just not that good. Okay. Bad because I always.
Are you singing
Hey,
I Just Sleep
Daniel.
song?
No,
Krista,
no.
hey,
It was
hey,
like
Daniel.
Micah started it.
If I unplug this, they'll turn themselves on.
Daniel.
Yeah, that's my name.
Yeah, when's your wife gonna be here?
I don't know. Maybe today.
Yeah, I want to see her.
Daniel has your wife.
I miss her.
Do you like not believe she exists? Or something?
No, I miss her.
We all miss her.
It's Emily. It's Emily.
You should
I
make sure you tell her
disrespected
that
the
when
Holy
she's
Bible, I'm
here. Because if you guys
sorry.
only say you miss her when she's not here, she'll never
I
know.
was gonna tell you to
She'll never
sit
know.
by me,
Well, I'll make sure she
Okay.
knows I miss her.
but looks like you're already.
Now, why wouldn't I not sit by you?
Alrighty, guys, we're in Second Chronicles today. We're back. It's been a ride. It's been something. It's been interesting. Eleanor is she likes to be awake at night and she likes to be asleep in the daytime, which is normal for babies her age. That's like absolutely normal. We're closing in on the 1 month mark, which is when we can really start trying to like sleep train her. Like light means you stay awake, dark means you go back to sleep. But for now, she's totally bonkers backwards. And so like in the daytime you feed her, she goes right back to sleep. But at nighttime you feed her and she looks at you. Put me down, I dare you. Go ahead, try it. Just see what happens if you put me down. Just go ahead. Just do it. Just do it. And if you keep holding her, she'll just stare at you. Totally happy. The second you set her down, you don't love me. She just loses it. In the daytime, though, yeah, she's mostly just asleep. That's all she does. So if she does come today with Emily, you'll see.
So she's like a bat.
In only one particular way,
Yes,
but just that one.
Just that one.
There's no webbing between her long elongated fingers or anything like that. Yeah,
She can fly as well.
but she can fly.
Unless she's.
Alrighty. So we are in 2 Chronicles chapter 2 and chapter 3 today. I know it's been a little while. How many Sundays have I missed?
Lots.
3?
A lot.
3? Maybe 4.
I think like 4. Maybe.
3 or 4.
Probably 4 years.
3. No,
You
3.
see,
Yeah.
if you say
Almost a
3 or
month,
4,
though. Because I know it's been a lot of Wednesdays
Yeah,
too.
you've been gone for a
Been
long
gone.
time.
Oh, also,
But if you say
everyone
3
that
or
bet that
4,
you'd come back
just in
freshly
case it's
shaven,
more,
you were
also
right.
got it
Well, I told people that I was going to shave for baby.
So that
No,
you
I
have
thought like
a
shave
chance
for
to-
baby,
Right.
and then in the month
And
that
then
you're
like a
gone,
month,
just grow it
the
all
beard will
back.
come back.
What?
No.
Yeah,
The point
we-
of shaving for baby is because when you burp the baby, they're right here, and they'll crook your neck. And they move a lot. They're looking for more milk.
You
They're
don't
not
want
going to find it up
sandpaper
there,
baby
but they're going to
things?
keep looking because they don't know. And so as they look around, their head is just doing this against your neck the whole time. And if you don't shave, you're just going. And eventually your baby will have a rash on whatever handedness you are. Like if you're right-handed, they'll have a rash on their right side. So yeah, no, I had to shave. Like otherwise.
But you shaved
Maybe some
earlier,
guys have
you
beards
said.
that are long and lustrous and
See,
can
I
be
was
softened with
like wait.
conditioning products or
Like
something.
wait.
My beard basically goes from like non-existent to sandpaper to wool. And like these are the 3 states of
Dude,
beard. That's
wool.
all you can have. You can have sandpaper, wool, or nothing. So I chose nothing.
Very
As
nice.
you can see. Okay, so we are in 2 Chronicles, written in 450 BC, taking place back around the same time as 2 Samuel and 1 Kings. Written as a history book, as they're rebuilding the nation way out here on the timeline. They came back from captivity and they're trying to set the nation back up, but no one was ever born in Israel that's still alive. Everyone that's still alive was born in Babylon, and no one remembers how to be Israel, how to be God's people. And so this history book is one of the 2, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, written to remind them, to teach them, here's what being Israel is all about. Here's how you got here. Here's what happened before you that was good. Here's what happened before you that was not good. And so it retells the whole story. Last week we saw in chapter 1, Solomon is going to the tabernacle. He's going to worship God. He sacrifices like 1,000 sacrifices. And he worships God, and God comes to him in the night and says, what do you want? I'll give you anything you ask for. And Solomon says, I have everything I could ever need. You've blessed me. All I would ask is that you would fulfill the promises you've already made to me, the promises that David asked for, my father. But I will ask for wisdom. Teach me how to lead your people. Show me how to be a wise ruler so I can lead them properly. Because at that point, he was only 23. This is about a year later. He's getting the construction of the temple underway, because the tabernacle was off in Gibeon, and he wants to build the temple like David wanted to in the capital, in Jerusalem. They've got all these materials set up. We talked about that weeks ago. Not even 3 weeks. It was the week before I was gone. So it was 4 weeks ago. or no, I guess it was 5 because it's not the last time I taught. Anyways, the last thing we talked about in First Chronicles was how much money it would have cost to set aside these materials. Remember? It was the most expensive building ever built. Nothing has ever come close to this. We're going to look a little bit today at how they use some of those materials, and you'll kind of see where all that money goes. But now he's only 24. 24, ruling a very populous, rich, successful nation after the greatest king they've ever had. And so he asked for wisdom. Very smart. But now we're going to see that construction start to take place, and we're still very, very, very much at the beginning of 2nd Chronicles. You'll see 2nd Chronicles is several hundred years long in terms of what it covers in its history book. But that's because as soon as Solomon dies, it starts moving a lot faster. Solomon gets quite a few chapters. I think it's like 8, maybe 9 chapters of the book. And then after that, you've got chapters that aren't even like one king per chapter. Like one chapter might have a list of kings in it. It's going to move really fast after Solomon. So here we go. Jump on in. 2nd Chronicles chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Solomon decided to build a temple to honor the name of the Lord, and also a royal palace for himself. He enlisted a force of 70,000 laborers, 80,000 men to quarry stones in the hill country, and 3,600 foremen. Solomon also sent messages to King Hiram at Tyre. It's way up north here on their northern border, and it's a port city, and this is actually where a lot of good trees grow, is up here north of Israel. Israel, very, very small amount of trees. Most of their greenery is bushes or trees you would use to grow food, not things you would chop down for lumber. So like they have date palms. Date palms, not good for lumber. You could chop down all the date palms, you'd probably never build even a single house out of it. Palms are not good for building houses out of. So he goes up north, he sends messages up to Tyre and says, I need to get stuff from you. He says this, send me cedar logs, as you did for my father David when he was building his palace. I am about to build a temple to honor the name of the Lord my God. It will be a place set apart to burn fragrant incense before him, to display the special sacrificial bread, and to sacrifice burnt offerings about each morning and evening, on the Sabbaths, at new moon celebrations, and at other appointed festivals of the Lord our God. He has commanded Israel to do these things forever. Now this is an interesting letter. For one thing, the guy who rules Tyre and all the people in Tyre, as far as we know, do not worship God. As far as we know, they all worship idols. So he's not just asking for stuff. He throws into the same paragraph as asking for stuff. Oh, by the way, this is how we worship our God. And that's pretty cool if you think about it. It doesn't seem natural. It doesn't seem normal to us because that's not normally how we talk to people. We wouldn't be messaging someone on, not Fortnite. Which one do you like again?
Apex?
Overwatch. You wouldn't be chatting with someone on Overwatch while you're playing Overwatch and then start talking about how you like to sing worship songs to God while you're playing Overwatch. You'd probably be talking about Overwatch? Just guessing? Maybe?
I don't know.
Do you just not talk to people on Overwatch?
No.
Oh.
My dad
okay.
does, though.
Does he talk to people about God on Overwatch, or does he talk about Overwatch?
No. He calls people silly names. He just types their name in the chat. Or it says LOL and they say what, and he just says cheese. He thinks it's the funniest thing ever.
So it's neither. He's literally doing nothing.
People's names wrong on purpose.
That's fantastic.
He does that a lot.
This is kind of the equivalent, though. He's sending this message out, basically asking for trade. I want to buy lumber from you because you have cedar up in your neck of the woods, and I don't. And then he just throws in there, and this is how we worship our God. We burn incense, we offer sacrifice, we do showbread, and he starts listing all this stuff. This is a neat heart. The heart of, I want to share about God with other people. I don't care what the context is. I don't care if they asked for it or didn't ask for it. I don't care if it was the topic of conversation. Now it is the topic of conversation. You're bringing God into it. I think that's really cool. And Solomon, as a king, gets to do this, and it would be bad form for the other king to be like, shut up about your God, because he's talking to another king. So to a certain degree, he kind of has to listen to Solomon, even if it is just a letter. Verse 5, he keeps going. This must be a magnificent temple because our God is greater than all other gods. He's not shy about God. Nowadays, it's very popular to be a worshiper of some, religion, practice, whatever, and to keep it to yourself. It's very popular for other people to do the same. And when you come together as people around, some common thing, you all like to play hockey, there's a picnic in the park, whatever it is, you're at the movie theater. Everyone just sort of keeps their own faith to themselves. You have your faith, I have mine, shut up. Don't tell me about it. That's the popular way to live right now in our country. And Solomon just comes right out. He's like, here's how we worship. By the way, my God's better. That's a bold claim. He's not saying like, I like my God. My God is really cool. He's like, my God is greater than all other gods. That's not just a claim of opinion, it's a claim of fact. Now, it might be that you, on the other end, maybe you're the guy who worships idols. You might hear him claim that. And you're like, nah, that's just your opinion. But he's not claiming his opinion is such. He's claiming a fact is such. Does that make sense? He's claiming it is true. But who can really build him a worthy home? Not even the highest heavens can contain him. So who am I to consider building a temple for him except as a place to burn sacrifices to him? He's explaining his own heart to the king of Tyre. So send me a master craftsman who can work with gold, silver, bronze, and iron, as well as with purple, scarlet, and blue cloth. He must be a skilled engraver who can work with the craftsmen of Judah and Jerusalem who were selected by my father David. Also, send me cedar, cypress, and red sandalwood logs from Lebanon. For I know that your men are without equal at cutting timber in Lebanon. I will send my men to help them. An immense amount of timber will be needed, for the temple I am going to build will be very large and magnificent. In payment for your woodcutters, I will send 100,000 bushels of crushed wheat, 100,000 bushels of barley, 110,000 gallons of wine, and 110,000 gallons of olive oil. So here's your breakdown. Olive oil turns out most expensive out of the bunch. Go figure. Wouldn't have seen that one coming. But anyways, these are today's prices. I have no idea what this would actually fetch back then. I just know that, if you wanted to go buy this quantity of stuff in bulk, this is what you would pay. Also, I couldn't find wine bulk prices for some reason. No one sells wine in bulk. So this is the Walmart wine price. Figured that was the closest thing you could get was wine by the gallon from Walmart. So $11 a gallon for Walmart wine. There you go. The rest are actually bulk prices. You can actually get bulk wheat, bulk barley, and bulk olive oil. That exists. So there you go. I don't know what you would do with bulk wine if you could get it.
What about Costco wine?
Costco, yeah, that's probably bulk. I should have looked there. I was thinking like, but of no quality. But I mean, maybe his was of high quality. I have no idea. No
So
real
Walmart
way. He
wine
doesn't
is of
say
no quality?
in the letter, I'm giving you my best wine. I actually am really curious about something. Can you guys picture the transport of liquids in like 600 BC? Because today, if you wanted to transport hundreds of gallons of something, you hire a tanker truck. You fill the tanker truck. We have tanker trucks with special plastic lining. It's like a milk jug on the inside of that big steel, like barrel-shaped thing. And so what goes in there comes back out perfectly clean. Perfect. So you can fill a truck with wine, and it comes back out pure wine on the other side. Okay, but they didn't have that back then. So like to move wine across large distances, you put it into like a clay vessel. Does that make sense? Like a clay thing. And then you would shape the clay in such a way that the neck was sealable, so you could put something small in a small opening and plug it. And also it was shaped in such a way that you could tie rope around it. And you would fasten these clay things like some sort of swinging ringer for a bell via ropes to the backs of camels or donkeys or whatever you had to move it. And you would just fasten as many on the right as you had on the left. So the clay vessels would just be balancing out other clay vessels. And then if one breaks halfway through the journey, usually the one on the other side goes zzz, hits the ground too. So I mean, you're talking about 110,000 gallons of wine. I don't know how many gallons a single camel can carry. Let's say it's 20. You're still dealing with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of camels, all just walking some wine up to the next country up the road. I mean, this is multiple weeks of walking a camel times several thousand for just the wine, and then again for just the olive oil, and then again for just the wheat, and then again for just the barley. Can you imagine like the crazy conga line? I mean, it probably would get there before it had finished leaving. Does that make sense? just picture that, like a country of pack animals in length, just moving this constant procession of stuff. And I'm sure the guy in front has the letter. It'd really suck if the guy in the back had the letter. But then the king of Tyre sees, like coming over the horizon, just this continuous line of pack animals.
He's like, where am I gonna put
What
all
in the
wine?
world? Yeah, where am I going to put all this?
What?
Do you do when they get there? Now you have to pile up these spillable, breakable containers of wine, these spillable, breakable containers of olive oil. It would be nutty.
How did they feed the camel?
I don't even, that's the thing. You probably have to have camels to bring food for the camels. It's insanity. So anyways, this is nuts. Okay, it's not like today where you like just wire someone $6 million and it just shows up in their bank account within a week. And it's just there. They just have it now. Okay, this is insane. Absolutely insane. So anyways, he does that. Then we get a letter back from King Hiram. So verses 11 through 16. King Hiram sent this letter to reply to Solomon. It is because the Lord loves his people that he has made you their king. Praise the Lord, the God of Israel, who made the heavens and the earth. He has given King David a wise son, gifted with skill and understanding, who will build a temple for the Lord and a royal palace for himself. Now, as much as I don't think Tyre and Sidon and Lebanon worship the one true living God, they do have a profound respect for him because of David. And now Hiram sees the kind of man Solomon is with his letter. It's not a letter of pressure from a neighboring bigger power king. You know, like the king of Tyre has a few cities, right? He's a small-time king. They're very rich, but not a large army. Okay, and they've been friendly with David throughout the course of David's reign. At a time when David was at war with almost every other country on the border. Almost every other country, doesn't matter where you go, to the north that's not on the coast, to the east, to the east, down south, even west, even though Israel's on the coast, they didn't own their coast down here. The Philistines had it. So even on the west, they were at war with someone. So King of Tyre, he likes David, he likes Israel, and he knows something about the God that David worshipped. And now he sees what kind of man Solomon is. No pressure. I'm not sending an army. I'm not saying give me the logs or else. He sends this letter and he's willing to pay handsomely. He's willing to pay like above the price that is required. And so the king answers him back and realizes like this guy is like his dad. This guy is a cool guy. And he praises God. He understands that a nation like Israel should not succeed as much as they are just based on their merits, just based on their size. They're not a giant country. They don't have the biggest army. And yet they keep winning, they keep winning, they keep winning, and that's because they're following God. At this point in their history, they're following God, so they just keep winning. And so he sees it. This is pretty common back then. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. If someone was having unmitigated success, just doesn't make sense success, people would chalk it up to the gods. That was normal. It didn't have to be the one true God. It didn't have to be, here in the Middle East where Abraham's family had descended to. All over the world, if people were having great success, people would say, the gods are smiling on you. You must have the favor of the gods. So I don't think it's weird for him to say this, but I think it's cool that Solomon put God in the letter. Because if the guy just thinks that like he thinks it about any other nation that's having success, then he's going to think of the God of Israel just like any other idol. He's a local God. He only has control in that one place, that one time. But Solomon basically starts by setting the record straight. He starts by saying, no, my God's not like those. My God is the greatest God. He is above all the other gods. And so as the king of Tyre gets to look on and see how well it's going for Solomon, he also has the nugget of truth that Solomon wrote to him. And so he gets to mull that over. That's important. People don't always have to believe you the first time you say something about God. But if you said some truth about God, then as time goes on and they watch your life, they get to go back and think about that truth you gave them. That is wildly important. It doesn't mean you're going to convert them on day 1 or day 2 or even in the first year that you know them. But if you're consistently giving them the truth and living a life of love, a life that you're following after God in your whole life, it's going to start to have an effect on people. Verse 13, I am sending you a master craftsman named Huram-Abi, who is extremely talented. His mother is from the tribe of Dan in Israel, and his father is from Tyre. So this guy's like a half Israelite already. He is skillful at making things from gold, silver, bronze, and iron, and he also works with stone and wood. He can work with purple, blue, and scarlet cloth and fine linen. He is also an engraver who can follow any design given to him. He will work with your craftsmen and those appointed by my Lord, David, your father. So he calls Solomon's dad his own Lord. And that sort of makes sense. Again, he's the small city-state on the border of a bigger country. And so he really respected David. He thought David was a great king. David was very peaceful with him, was always nice to him. Verse 15, send along the wheat, barley, olive oil, and wine that my Lord has mentioned. We will cut whatever timber you need from the Lebanon mountains and will float the logs in rafts down the coast of the Mediterranean Sea to Joppa. From there you can transport the logs up to Jerusalem. Solomon took a census of all foreigners in the land of Israel, like the census his father had taken, and he counted 153,600. He assigned 70,000 of them as common laborers, 80,000 as quarry workers in the hill country, and 3,600 as foremen. Now, we don't read here of any backlash for doing that. And the reason would be, if there is no backlash, is because God said to do it. We saw last time when David took a census, if God didn't ask for the census, then you were stealing from him. There was a common rule back in those days that if you counted someone's livestock, it better be because you bought them. You were only allowed to count what you owned. And if you go around counting your neighbor's stuff, it looked like you were a thief. You were looking to steal his stuff. And so God's rule was, you don't count my people, they're mine. And when you're going to count them, because I told you to count them, you're going to make a sacrifice for them. And it was literally like 1-to-1. If you're going to count 100,000 people, it's time to get 100,000 animals to sacrifice. Okay? It was insane. So you didn't lightly enter into counting up how many people were in the country. So if he did this, according to God's will, that means he would have sacrificed not just all that stuff he spent to get the lumber, he would have sacrificed over 153,000 animals. Now the animals would actually come from the person who was being counted. And so as the king, when you would decree the census goes on, like, ta-da, we're doing a census, it's this year, huzzah, that would also be a decree. Everyone in my country just lost one of their animals from their flock. You had to know you were doing that, and you had to make sure that people were going to go with you on this. Because if they cheat, they're cheating God, not you. So it's a big move to do something like this. Keep going into chapter 3, back in Jerusalem. He's done his little census, and now work begins. Chapter 3, verse 1. So Solomon began to build the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to David, his father. The temple was built on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, the site that David had selected. The construction began in mid-spring during the 4th year of Solomon's reign. Now, neat thing, this hill, Moriah, it gets used a lot of times as a locating mark in the Bible, both in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, in the New Testament, the temple that they can go to is not the temple Solomon's building here. Does that track, does that lock in for a second? There's more than one temple in Jerusalem, depending on where on the timeline you are. Solomon's temple, okay, is being built in the 600s BC. It gets destroyed in the late 500s BC. It's just about 400s. Completely obliterated. We're going to see in a second, it's so filled with gold, it makes it the most expensive building to be built ever. The very walls were made of gold. So when it was destroyed, they picked it clean, because what you could get out of it, even after it burned, was probably the largest stockpile of gold that the ancient world had ever seen before. Gold melts, but it doesn't disappear, it doesn't evaporate. You melt it, it's still going to sit there when it cools. So if you burn that building down, it's going to be a heavy puddle, but it's a very valuable puddle. You should go break that puddle up and take it home. That puddle of gold is worth a lot. So that temple's destroyed just a few hundred years after it's made. Then in the 400s BC, when Israel comes back from Babylon, they build a second temple. That temple gets built, finished, hurt, repaired, and eventually you get to the temple that's sort of like a temple 2.5. And that's the one that Jesus got to walk around in. That's the one where they preached the gospel after Jesus died, rose again, and went back to heaven. Not Solomon's temple. Okay, so that's critical. That's critical because it says they built this temple on Mount Moriah, which is a hill just outside of Jerusalem. However, the second temple wasn't built there. They built it off to the side, more inside of Jerusalem. They built it probably where David and Solomon's palace used to be. But Mount Moriah became something else. The Romans started using it to crucify people. And as far as we know, that is the exact hill where Jesus died on the cross. It is also the place that once upon a time, if you go backwards in your Bible, Abraham hiked with Isaac. And they brought up wood and a knife, and they built an altar. And Abraham took his son, who was old enough to talk, old enough to carry wood, so he's not like some baby or something. And he says, son, I need you to climb on this altar. It's God's will. And his son climbs on the altar. He lets his dad tie up his hands. And he sits there waiting for God's will to occur, which he thinks is his dad killing him. And Abraham thinks is to kill his son. And they're about to go through that, and God says, stop, I'm going to provide the sacrifice. And so all the way back in Genesis, God sets up this symbology right there in this spot, this one spot on the entire planet, on top of Mount Moriah, and he says, this is the spot where I'm going to provide the sacrifice, not you. You should lose what's yours. You should pay the price for what you've done, but you're not going to. I'm going to. And so right there, there's suddenly just an animal caught in the thicket, and God says that, use that. Don't sacrifice your son. Take my sacrifice. And then they build the temple there. And that is where they sacrifice hundreds and thousands of animals over the next years to God, where they make propitiation for their sin, right there. That's the spot where they sprinkle the blood. And by the time they build up that 2.5 temple that Jesus gets to see, that the disciples get to see, the hill where the temple was is just dirt. It's just a mound. But they've now stuck up their crosses over there. And that's where they crucify people. And so when Jesus goes to die, he goes to die in that spot. The spot that God chose. And he said, my sacrifice, not yours. I'm going to pay. And so this is that spot. This is also the spot, the reason they chose it. I don't think Solomon looked that far ahead. I don't think he saw Jesus dying on a cross and knew, like, this is why I should pick this. They picked the spot because when David messed up royally and he did the census without asking God, and God started to punish the nation, God paused the punishment on that spot. That's the place where he paused the punishment. It was like a wave washing over the country. Men were dying left and right. And when he got to that hill, he stopped. And at that spot on the hill was a building. It wasn't naked at that point. There was a building. There was a threshing floor. It was where farmers would process their wheat. And so he stops there in the building. And the guy's threshing his wheat at the time. Like when the angel of the Lord, when like pre-incarnate Jesus is just standing there in the room, waiting to slay more of the nation as punishment for their sin. The guy's just tossing his wheat in the air. And Jesus in all of his glory and power and like terror is just standing there. I don't know if he's tapping his foot, but he's waiting for David to show up. And the guy finally notices this like ominous presence behind him, turns around, sees the angel of the Lord, freaks out, throws his wheat, runs out of the building, and as he runs out, David's coming up the hill. David knows this is where he needs to be. And so David runs up the hill as the guy runs down the hill, and he's like, the thing in the building, the angel of the Lord. And he's like, I know. So he runs up there and he talks to pre-incarnate Jesus, has this whole conversation about how deeply sorry he is, and how he wants to make amends. And the angel tells him, build an altar right here. Make a sacrifice right here. And so David goes and talks to the guy who owns the building. He's like, I got to make a sacrifice. I got to build an altar. And the guy's like, fine, take it. I don't even want the land. You can have the shack. You can have the hill. It's all yours. I'm never coming back. He's like, no, I can't. If I make a sacrifice on land that's not mine, then I'm stealing. It's not my sacrifice. It's like, well, here, take my cow. Like, you can have my stuff. Sacrifice my stuff. I don't care. He's like, no, I can't. It has to be mine. And so David goes before Jesus and makes a sacrifice after having bought the land and bought the cow and built the altar. He sacrifices before Jesus and he says, here, I'm sorry. I messed up. And so David pays for his mistake. And that was sort of the last time. Because from that point on, then Jesus sort of takes over as the one who's going to pay. And when they sacrifice their animals, we read it in the prophets, those animals' blood, their blood was not the reason their sins were forgiven. The only time their sins were forgiven was when they had faith. And the exercise of their faith was to sacrifice an animal. But the blood didn't do it. And at some point, as you go through their history, the prophets tell us, when you get into the major and the minor prophets, that the blood was all that was happening. At some point, their faith dried up. They had no more faith, and they were just going through the motions. They were just celebrating the holidays God said to celebrate. They were just killing the animals like God said to kill them. And then that's it. They're just killing animals. It's just barbecue. There's no more faith. And he says, when that happened, there was no more sins being forgiven. The blood of animals, it never washed away sin. When your faith went, the forgiveness went. There's just blood after that. And what that tells you is that all those times they brought the animals in and their sins were forgiven, it was still, we read this in the New Testament, based on the promise of what Jesus would do on that spot one day. That their faith was in him, and he was going to pay the ultimate price. And so their faith brought them to the place where Jesus could forgive them and Jesus could pay the price. The animal was just the exercise of their faith. It was to show what they were willing to pay. But the price of an animal was never worth the cost of sin. They were never equal. So this spot is powerful. This spot is important. That's where they build the temple. Now let's look at how big this temple is.
And the house, that is, the temple.
That was supposed to be muted. Sorry about that. I just wanted the visual. I didn't want the whole backtrack.
And the house, that
Oh,
is,
come on!
the temple before it, was 40
Okay.
cubits.
I'm gonna mute that. He's just gonna read to you what's on screen anyway, so it's not like that important.
But for
Oh my gosh.
a while.
Mute. I'll bet you the next slide's broken too. Oh no, the next slide's good. I had 2 video slides. Okay, back to this. Okay. Anyways, so here's a 3D model of the temple. And so what we've got is, this is the Holy of Holies at the back, and this is the, or sometimes called the Most Holy Place, and this is the Holy Place. So only priests could come in here. There'd be lamps to light, incense to burn, bread that they would put before the Lord, and this back part, the Most Holy Place, or the Holy of Holies, is a cube. It's the same height, depth, and width. And this place could only be gone into one day a year by the high priest after he'd made atonement for the whole nation. Okay? And then this is the entrance. They don't actually mention that in Chronicles, I don't think. I think it's only in Kings, but it exists. All right, so read with me, verses 3 through 9. These are the dimensions Solomon used for the foundation of the temple of God, using the old standard of measurement. It was 90 feet long and 30 feet wide. The entry room at the front of the temple was 30 feet wide. Oh, I guess they do mention, yeah. Running across the entire width of the temple and 30 feet high. He overlaid the inside with pure gold. He paneled the main room of the temple with cypress wood and overlaid it with fine gold and decorated with carvings of palm trees and chains. He decorated the walls of the temple with beautiful jewels and with gold from the land of Parvaim. He overlaid the beams, thresholds, walls, and doors throughout the temple with gold, and he carved figures of cherubim on the walls. He made the most holy place 30 feet wide, corresponding to the width of the temple, and 30 feet deep. He overlaid its interior with 23 tons of fine gold. Did I write 27? I did. Gosh darn it. Okay, well, you can do some math there. It's only 23. I messed that up. Sorry, just a typo. The gold nails that were used weighed 20 ounces each. He overlaid the walls of the upper room with gold. Now, picture for a moment a nail used to build a building that costs more than a wedding ring. Think about that for a second. Because I just built a house. It's almost done now. We did all the nail parts. The nails are done. We don't need any more nails now. And the nails are cheap. Screws are expensive, but nails, super cheap. You can get a big old box of nails. You get hundreds of them. It's not that much money, okay? Now, if you were to make a gold nail, there'd be so much gold in that nail, it would cost more than a wedding ring. And you still have to process it to make it sharp and pointy and work like a nail. It's not just the material cost. You actually have to make it just like you have to make a ring. Maybe there's less detail in a nail than a ring, but it's not automatic. You don't just like take a lump of gold and turn it into nails all of a sudden. You actually have to work it and make molds and do all the process that a jeweler would have to do. And now we have this nail that's, it's probably worth like 3 to 4 rings in weight. And that's just one. That's just a nail. And you have to just make a bunch of them. Tons of them, quite literally. So you can hold up the tons of gold that are all over the walls. So when they went to hammer the gold plate onto the wooden walls, they didn't want anything to show that wasn't gold. So then they thought, we have to make gold nails. So some of the gold isn't even there for you to see. Some of the gold is inside the beam. It's the end of the nail. So some of the gold is just in the walls. You can't even see it. But 23 tons of gold on these walls, floors, doors, steps, beams, everything. So that when you walked in the room, there was nothing that wasn't gold.
Except for the person in there.
Yeah, you're it. It really reminds you how holy the place is when you walk in and you're the ugliest thing in the room, right? Picture that. Because I've never done that. I'm not an interior designer. You guys can see how I decorate, right?
I like it.
You might like it, but I'm just saying, like, it's not measurably pretty. Right? No one would walk in here and be like, oh, wow, Daniel, I love what you've done with the place. No one would say that. Come to my house, it'd be the same thing. You'd be like, that's a choice. Krista knows, she's been to my house now. That's one way to live. No one would think like, wow, Daniel, you're just the most amazing designer. You make everything look so good. But you walk in here, and it's so gobsmacking, just like beautiful and rich. Every surface, it's not even plain gold, because that can be a little tacky if you just have like flat, shiny sheets of things. You know, it's like having a house made of mirrors. It's not exactly pretty. It's just confusing. They carved everything. Everything's hand carved, the whole wall, all the way up. This taller part out here is almost twice as tall as this part. I think it's 50 feet tall, which is a little bit taller than the church. And if you can imagine when you go outside, because in here it doesn't look that tall, when you go outside and you look at the height of the church, and you just imagine that whole thing is a sheet of gold. Just the whole thing. And then they went up it with like ladders or I don't know, scaffolding or something, and they hand carved palm trees all the way up. You know what's neat about palm trees? You can't just do an outline. You have to do like that hash mark pattern, right? To get the bark to look right. They're doing the actual carving of palm trees all the way up a surface that's as tall as the church. This is insanity. So when you walk in, you are absolutely certain I am the least holy thing here. You can't avoid it. It's an unavoidable thought. I'd like to pause here for a second. Before we get too much further. Oh, maybe we should read the next section. I want to do a field trip. Yeah, we'll pause here. We'll do the field trip. Okay, put your Bibles down. We're going outside. Come on. It'll be quick.
Like
I know.
a metaphorical field trip or no? I was like,
Who's got the candy?
It was so funny. Emily came up here
Right
when we were all gone. Oh my gosh, that was a fun field trip. I saw a squirrel.
She saw a squirrel.
I saw a squirrel. It was exciting.
Oh my god. I cut my balls.
They love squirrels.
No, but it was
We
a
should
little
do this one.
squirrel and he was hopping.
I always catch my
those are
typos too late.
expired,
I
by
hate
the
that.
way.
It really bothers
Well,
me.
I guess
Yeah,
you
we
could
know.
fix it right now.
I think those are expired, by the way.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll take
It still
it.
tastes good.
Okay.
It says it expires May 22nd of this year.
On my birthday.
You're born May 22nd?
Guess what? Coffee expires on
Wait,
What
when did it
part? I guess it has milk in it.
I won't.
Wait, last year?
It's still good.
It smells amazing.
At the Halloween alternative, I had expired whipped cream because nobody else
Get
wanted
big
to.
old clumps.
Nobody,
Oh, that's nice.
nobody wanted to see
Okay.
if it was good.
So let's keep going.
tried one.
Next section. Here we are in the Holy of Holies. There's your statues. Now, what they thought cherubim looked like is actually mysterious to us. Does that make sense? Like, we don't know what they thought cherubim looked like. We're basing this on some archaeology, though, so we're pretty sure they took influence from Egyptian sources to come up with the look. Now, I don't think it's a bad look. I don't think they're wrong. When God describes the cherubim, he gives them animal qualities. He says that they have these animal characteristics. But it doesn't necessarily say it's just a lion with a guy's head on it. So, you know, to a certain degree, I think cherubim are hard for us to imagine because all the descriptions we have in Scripture don't sound like a person who's sane. Like, they sound sane right up till they try to say what it looks like. And then they sound insane. And then as soon as they stop talking about what it looks like, it sounds sane again. It's difficult for us to imagine someone that's spirit first, physical, if even. Does that make sense? Like, that's actually really hard for us humans. So all these human authors who had to see them and then try and write about it, they don't do so good. For one thing, there's not enough eyeballs. So that's their best guess. They had to make a 3D model of something, right? So they went with the Egyptian inspiration. Oh well. Verses 10 through 14 say this. He made 2 figures shaped like cherubim, overlaid them with gold, and placed them in the most holy place. The total wingspan of the 2 cherubim standing side by side was 30 feet. One wing of the first figure was 7.5 feet long, and it touched the temple wall. The other wing was also 7.5 feet long and touched one of the wings of the second figure in the same way. The second figure had one wing 7.5 feet long that touched the opposite wall. The other wing, also 7.5 feet long, touched the wing of the first figure. So the wingspan of the 2 cherubim side by side was 30 feet. They stood on their feet and faced out toward the main room of the temple. Across the entrance of the most holy place, he hung a curtain made of fine linen, decorated with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and embroidered with figures of cherubim. For the front of the temple, or I guess we should pause there, huh? Yeah, let's pause there for a second. So, by making these so large and imposing, I think the idea was almost like a watching guard. Because God's footstool, the Ark of the Covenant, isn't really a throne you can usurp. It doesn't really need real guards. It's not like if you go sat on God's throne, suddenly you become God or some nonsense like that. So you don't need an actual guard. But it was meant to remind you of where you were stepping. You were stepping into a model of God's throne room in heaven. So it's not his actual throne room, but it's meant to mimic it. And when we start to see some of the few pictures in the Bible of heaven, we see similar motifs of concentric moving inwards towards, of a straight path out, the cherubim flying around his throne, things like that. And so they build these references in there. And you'll see, I think, there's actually more of them in the tabernacle than there is in the temple. But the temple has quite a few too. Okay, moving on. Verse 15. For the front of the temple, he made 2 pillars that were 27 feet tall, each topped by a capital. Do you guys know what capitals are? In this usage, like how he's using the word capital here?
Like,
No? Okay.
like you would use a post.
So think of like the classic Roman column. You guys have seen like Roman columns. There's like a straight up and down bit, and there's like the bottom has like a little curl, and the top has like a little curl.
That's what I was
Okay, so
saying.
that thing up there, that's the capital. And when you're building these things, whether it be out of stone or out of wood or out of metal, generally, there's an actual puzzle piece put together method of construction because it's hard to make solid objects that are this large. Generally, if you're going to do it one solid column, it's going to be because you cut down one big tree. And you know, it's easier just to leave it that way. But it's really hard to move stone that's one big column. It's really hard to move metal that's one big column. So typically you would do it in pieces, and you'd have some way to interlock them to get them to slip into each other. And it would also be the case that the column wasn't just there to look pretty and be a column. It was usually attached to some part of the building. You're holding up some part of the building. And so the capital would actually be precisely made to interface with whatever you're sticking above it, the ceiling, the post, the beam, whatever it was that was going on top of the column. And it would also be made to interface with the column. And so it was like an adapter. But then people had to make these, and they made them pretty because they like to make things pretty. So usually the column was all plain. It was just one big shape, whatever it was, even if it was multiple pieces. And then the top bit, the capital, would adapt to the ceiling, and it would be pretty. They made theirs. Very interesting. Let's see here. So it's 7.5 feet tall for the capital. He made a network of interwoven chains and used them to decorate the top of the pillars. He also made 100 decorative pomegranates and attached them to the chains. And then he set up the 2 pillars at the entrance of the temple, one to the south of the entrance and the other to the north. And he named the one on the south Jachin and the one on the north Boaz. Now, pomegranate is a word that gets used in the Bible an awful lot, and that's kind of weird, because not everyone in the Bible, as far as we can tell, had access to pomegranates. But the way they use the word is really odd. It's the way we might use the word bauble. You guys know the word bauble? No?
Bubbles?
You don't know the word
Bobble or bubble?
Bauble.
Like his head was bobbling.
Well, that'd be the verb. But baubles do bobble, so that would make sense. You guys ever seen a bobblehead doll? Why do they call it a bobblehead doll?
Because of bubbles.
But it wouldn't bobble unless his head was a bobble.
This is so.
You're not getting it? Okay.
No.
Girls in the audience, you ever had, when you were a little girl, one of those dresses that has on the edge of the dress this strip of special ribbon like sewn onto the hem, and on that ribbon is hanging off a little puffball every inch.
No.
Puffball, puffball,
No.
puffball, 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 puffball. All the way around the dress. You guys ever had one of those?
I don't think you ever.
No? Okay,
Only
so-
one dress. Really.
I don't think you would let
Dresses,
anyone
my
put a
mom
dress
made
on
Those
you.
today, those puffballs, those are called baubles. That's our word today for them. And what it means is a thing that's bigger than the thing it's attached by, and therefore it can wiggle. That's a bauble. So it has to be a bigger thing attached by a little thing, and then that makes it a bauble, which is why a bobblehead is a bobblehead. Because the head is absurdly large compared to the head, or to the body. Right? So it's a bobblehead. It bobbles. Their word for baubles back then was pomegranate. So they had pomegranates, like an actual crack it open, get the little red seeds out pomegranate. They had those, that existed. But they also used the word pomegranate, it seems from how they use it, because they use it all through the Bible, to mean a bauble. Which, for us now and for them then, is also a synonym for trinket. You guys know the word trinket? I know, I'm really giving you some weird vocab words today. So trinket, it's an extra little thingy that doesn't really need to be there. It's just extra. Does that make sense? It's just extra. So when they were poor and they're making a work garment, you know, something they're just going to wear out in the fields, there were no pomegranates on it. There were no baubles. There were no trinkets. It's just cloth and stitches. You put it on, you're not naked. Congratulations. But if you were going to make something that was like fancy, you were going to like wear it to special dinners, you're going to wear it on special occasions, only for holidays, you'd make some pomegranates or baubles or trinkets. Sew it on the edges and make it so that there was like little things that jingled and jangled and wiggled and wobbled and bobbled back and forth as you moved. That was like a normal thing. The priest's garments are described by God to need to have pomegranates all across the bottom hem. And I kid you not, for a lot of years, people didn't understand what the heck he was talking about. Why does he want pomegranates on their robe? That's super weird, man. Well, it doesn't mean pomegranate in the literal sense. Although, I mean, it could. You could carve little gold pomegranates if you wanted to. There's no problem with
I
that.
would be happy.
But we found a lot of evidence archaeologically and linguistically that they use the word pomegranate to just mean a little hangy-offy thing. That's all it really means most of the time. So they make this thing up top, and in this picture, it almost looks like a pineapple. You guys see it? It's kind of pineapple-y. Here, let me shut off the lights. You see it? I don't know. I think they drew it like a pineapple. It's got all these leafy bits up top. Well, anyways, when they describe it in Kings, they go into greater detail about the top half, how it has lilies all over the top. So the bottom has pomegranates, 100 pomegranates. It's got chains, gold chains, which again are hard to make. It's just for the look of the thing. It gives it, extra detail. And then the top is lilies. So you've got all these petals of gold. It's all, bronze. We switched materials. I'm so stuck on gold. So these are bronze now. And the lilies are bronze, and the pomegranates are bronze, and the chains are bronze. And it's all fiddly bits. Now that's 7.5 feet tall, just that top section. You guys know standard ceilings are like 8 feet tall, right?
Yes.
Okay. Standard ceiling, 8 feet tall. That's normal in most older houses. They're finally transitioning now. A lot of newer houses have probably. But 8 feet was the standard for a long, long time.
Yeah. I know. I haven't had any food this morning. I don't eat in the mornings.
Let them out.
Overwatch is for the morning.
You're
It's
at
not
fun.
fit. No, yeah, I don't eat in the mornings, especially on Sunday.
So 7.5 feet tall of jewelry grade bronze. And I know from just reading in Kings how fat it is. So there's 7. Oh yeah, our ceilings are actually not perfectly 8 feet in here. Depending on which corner of the room you're in, it may or may not be 8
What?
feet. Yeah, I'm not joking about that. Okay, so this is 7.5 feet tall now. Okay, so jewelry grade bronze, 7.5 feet tall. Okay, that's just the top, just the topper, and it's that wide. That's how fat the column is. Okay, now the bottom of the column that goes under the pomegranate covered, lily covered thing is 27 feet tall. That's where I got my 27 typo earlier. There was 23 tons of gold and I wrote 27. It's because they're 27 feet tall. And I picked the wrong number.
If you did 23 right there, just switch them.
Did I?
No.
Oh, I could have, yes.
You could.
Yes, okay. So 27 feet tall, same width. The bottom is just solid. Not impressive in terms of beauty or anything, but just in terms of sheer mass, 192 tons of bronze is not to be sneezed at.
Where's that going?
Going to 27 feet here.
Oh, where's that go?
There we go, 27 feet. So 27 feet. Okay, and then, let's see. 324 plus 70, what's that? It's about 400.
No, let it go and let it slap against
Okay, so here we go. We'll do the width of the column this way.
I've done that so many times.
Here we go.
What's on my cup?
So there you go. There's your column. It's this thick, and it's that long.
Dang.
Just solid bronze.
Hey, well,
This part might be ugly, might be smooth, might be rough, might have lines on it. I don't know. But like, it's just a big old hunk of metal that's this big. It's kind of intense, right? Very sturdy. And then you throw on top of that another 7.5 feet of the decorative stuff, which my tape measure may not have room for. So 27 and 7 is 34.5. Yeah, okay. This is a 35-foot tape measure. So when you add together the decorative bit with the not decorative bit, then total height would be like this. Just a solid mass of bronze.
No.
It's massive. And there's 2 of them. There's 2 of them. So, just material costs now to get the bronze. It's about $1 million per column
That is so cute.
in bronze. And bronze is cheap. Bronze is cheap. It's only $4,400 per ton.
That's why it's like third
it's
place
only
medals.
1,000 medals.
It's
Bronze.
4,400. Did I say 44,000? 4,400 per ton. That's not bad. It's not bad. It just so happens there's a lot of tonnage there. A lot of tonnage. Now, the names. The names are really, really cool. Check this out. Jachin means he shall establish, and Boaz means in strength. So right there at the door to the temple, holding it up, are probably the 2 most massive columns they've ever seen. Made out of bronze, which is beautiful. It looks like copper and gold kind of mixed together. And these are holding it up, and it's just, super decorative at the top. And they have names. And it's he shall establish in strength. Now, nothing looks quite so strong as a piece of metal so large you can't move it. That's about as strong as it gets. Something so large you can't move it just feels strong. When you're hiking and you go jumping from rock to rock, have you guys ever done that? Jump rock to rock?
Yeah.
You ever jump to a rock and you actually don't know if it's going to move? You're just hoping it's not going to move? and you jump anyways, but you're like super tense. You're so ready. I could roll my ankle right here. I'm ready to like jump somewhere else with the other foot as it goes under, like rolls under me. This is the opposite. This is when you jump to something and you're so sure it will catch you, so sure it will not move, that you feel safe jumping to it. Does that make sense? Like that's what we're talking about with these columns. These are the columns where you could lean against it and you wouldn't feel them move. You could kick it, you wouldn't feel it move. It's 192 tons of bronze just sitting there holding the ground down. And it says, as you look at them, because you know you're Hebrew, if you're back there back then, it says, he shall establish in strength. And what's beautiful about that to me is, it speaks of who really is building the temple. Yes, there's thousands of men doing this. Yes, Solomon is completing the project. Yes, David started the project. No one had the money to do this without God. No one had the material wealth, the success to get together this many tons of gold, this many tons of bronze, this many tons of silver without God. God gave them this stuff. That's why they were so willing to give it back to him. And God gave them the design. God spoke to David and said, I want it like this, I want it like this, I want it like this. And David wrote it all down for Solomon. So when they walk into this place, it's apparent. This is not just a building that humans made for God. This is a building for God, from God. We got to help. And it's a great reminder to see something so massive you could not move it. Once it's set in place, once they lock all those puzzle pieces together, that's it. It's there. It's a great reminder that that's who God is. He is the God that is so set, so strong, so sturdy, he cannot be moved. He's so strong, he can set together things that look to us like they can't be moved. That's how strong he is. So, you get to stand there, you get to look at these two bronze pillars, and always remember, he shall establish in him his strength. Okay, so the end of this, though.
There was a curtain behind
That's what
It's a double curtain.
There's going to be a freaking curtain behind this one.
This is from 1 Kings. Now, I mentioned before when we were looking at the timeline at the very beginning of this morning, Kings and Chronicles kind of overlap each other in time. They're telling the same story from different viewpoints. So 1 Kings is telling the same story, and it tells us some more details. There's 3 chapters to our 1. And it says this: the stones used in the construction of the temple were finished at the quarry, so there was no sound of hammer, axe, or any other iron tool at the building site. I don't know if you guys ever put together IKEA furniture, but it's like so perfectly cut that when it comes out of the box, you don't need wood glue or chisels or saws. You just fit it all together, and
like
there it is.
laser
It's done. Huh?
It's like laser cut.
It is. It's
Like-
practically laser cut. It's
Yeah.
so perfect. That's how they built the temple. They did it off-site according to the specifications, perfect the first time, so that when it was moved to the site of the temple, you set the block in place and it fit. That, to me, because I like to build, is a really powerful statement. That means they didn't just spend the most they could spend on the materials and then try and jam it all together. They spent the most they could spend on the materials, and they spent the most they could spend on the expert craftsmen, and they spent the most they could spend on the time needed to get it all right the first time. And then they made a temple. And so it wasn't just like one category of spending. It wasn't one kind of sacrifice. It wasn't money and material only. Yeah.
Do we know how long it took them to build it?
The first one, I don't know. When they tried again, it took a long, long time. They might have that detail in Kings. I read through Kings real quick, but I didn't memorize all the details. So 6, 7, and 8 are all dedicated to this building process. Furnishings, ark brought in. So King Solomon finished all his work on the temple, Lord, he brought all the gifts. Doesn't give a date. Darn. Yeah, I could probably look it up and figure it out from the other stuff I know about the timeline. Not off the top of my head. Doesn't look like they just give us a nice little number for finish date. Dedication of the temple. Nope. Yeah, typically with those kinds of things, you have to work it out yourself based on other events and how long apart they are. So I can figure it out later. It's not that hard. I've got a nice little timeline for Chronicles. We can figure it out from there. But yeah, they gave their gifts. They gave their gifts of gold. They gave their gifts of silver. They gave their gifts of their time. They gave their gifts of their expertise. And they didn't hold anything back. You don't have to build this way. Does that make sense? You don't need to build this way. It doesn't make the building better if you build this way. You could go on site and make sure everything was perfect on site. But now that I build a house, there's an extra step they don't mention here. Yeah, there's no noise. There's no work being done there at the temple except fitting it together. Elliot, don't do it.
I have to go. My dad's waiting for me.
Bye, Peach. There's an extra step here. This would take the mess of building out of the build site. That's a really cool thing. Because I am building a house now. It has been the case that my house has been completely destroyed with mess multiple times over in the building process. Just by doing one part of the process, like drywall, your house is destroyed with drywall stuff. Then you go to painting, your house is covered in paint. And you know, before that it was timber and nails, and your house is just covered in nails. It is stupid how many nails are on the ground, how many nails I've paid for that I just had to throw away. Because the nailing process has a lot of nails you just discard as they don't go in right. Like, the whole building process just litters the ground with junk as you're building. And they got around that. They did all the prep work in advance. They showed up with a puzzle piece and they just set the piece in place. It's beautiful. And it was just an extra sacrifice. That was it, just an extra sacrifice. So, as we see all the work that they put into this, I just want you guys to stop and think, what part of God's temple am I? And in what way can I serve him like this? Because the New Testament talks about how Christians, you are now one block in the best temple that God will ever have. A spiritual temple. Jesus was the chief cornerstone. I think you guys have heard that verse a couple times. He's the chief cornerstone. The religious leaders rejected him. The builders thought he was a joke. But he is the true start to the true temple for God. And that as we come to faith in Jesus, we end up as a block in that wall. And so this temple, as amazing as it is phenomenal, just gobsmacking, the most expensive building ever made. God says, no, I have preference for this other building. That one wasn't my favorite. I prefer the one where it's Jesus and all of my kids, and they make up the temple. That it's just a spiritual temple. It's not physical. You don't get to walk inside of it and look at the walls. You get to partake in it. You get to be part of the walls. So as you live your life and you're living for him, he is expecting you to learn from those before you, the blocks underneath you, to grow from what they can teach you, but he's also expecting you to hold someone else up. That there will come a day where there's a Christian who came to faith after you, and you get to teach them. You get to lift them up. That's your part in the building. Jesus was the first one laid, the cornerstone that everything else is set according to. And then we all take our place. And we get to stand firm in the kingdom and help out those that come in after us. And so ask yourself, like, maybe you're the person who carves, maybe you're the person who sets, maybe you're the person who cuts, maybe you're the person who hammers, maybe you're the person who, just goes and holds someone when they're crying. Maybe you're the person who prays for people and they don't even know you're doing it. Maybe you're the person who, rocks babies to sleep in the nursery downstairs. Maybe you're the person who grows up and runs the cafe when Kim retires. Maybe, just fill in the blank. Maybe you're the person who goes to Mexico and brings aid. I don't know. But there is a place. There is a place for you in that temple where you are worshiping God with your very life. That everything you do in your life is an act of worship. Because that's the point of God calling us all part of the temple. If he said we're all part of the kingdom, that would mean something else. Which he says that too. But when he says you're all part of the temple, that means you are the place where worship takes place. And that means your whole life is meant to be worship. Does that make sense? The whole thing. And so finding how you do that, what it is you do for him that is worship to him, that you can do every day. You don't have to wait for church. You don't have to wait to sing. You can just worship him with your very life. That is so critical. That is what your life is meant to be about. All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the example we see in Scripture. We thank you that you've said that we are part of a greater temple. What an amazing compliment. We just ask, Lord, that you would be filling us with your Holy Spirit this week, that we would see more clearly that plan you have for us. That we would see more clearly the glory of yours that we get to partake in. Help us to have eyes for those spiritual things, so that we don't get confused by what the world's throwing at us. We don't get distracted by what the world's throwing at us, but we keep our eyes fixed right on you. And Lord, may we feel that strong call to worship you, as if we were standing in a room made of gold, as if we were standing right there under a statue with wings taller than us, that we would have that strong desire to just lift up you and bring glory to your name. Help us to be like Solomon at the beginning of the chapter, bringing you into every little moment of every conversation, even if the context doesn't seem like it fits. Help us to put you front and center in all those conversations we have this week. With our eyes still closed, with our heads still bowed, if there's anyone here who needs to commit to Jesus right now and just say, I want your life instead of mine. I want your forgiveness for my sins. I want you to be my Lord and my Savior. I would just ask you to raise up your hand, and I'll pray with you, and you can start being one of those blocks in the most amazing temple, the eternal spiritual temple of our Lord. You can become part of his family, one of his kids. If that's you today, just put up your hand and I'll pray with you, and you can talk to him. You can place your faith in him and have a brand new life right now. Anyone this morning? All right, I love you guys. God bless you this week. And I can't wait to see you again next week. We pray all this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Oh, I gotta raise my hand.
I'm not stupid, Alan. I know what happens. All right. Love you guys. I'm sorry Emily didn't show up. I'll tell her you missed her. She might still be downstairs. Who knows? Maybe she never made it past the front door.
Just pop through one of the panels of the
She may
ceiling.
probably what happens when you walk in with a baby
You can't
sometimes.
put your phone in.
Micah.
Micah, no.
I'm putting in my phone.
He just put in his phone. I watched him.
And he put it under mine.
Wait, I'm not allowed to put in my phone.
I'm sure it's
No.
You're not?
Yeah, labs is fine. Putting it in after service is not fine. It's supposed to happen before service.
I don't even know.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Mike, you've been here longer than any middle school.
Dimensions of the building.
Ow! Ow! Seriously.
And I would have won too.
No, you wouldn't.
There's kids in
My life is ruined.
All right. So did Mom ever show up?
No.
No, Mama.
Well, I mean, it's not like we got out early, so then we picked up Jane. So, yeah.
Oh no.
Also,
I got a little distracted near
Also, you
because
lost
Alan
the bet.
reminded me about my muscles.
We didn't
And
really go
it just
into
made me
bed.
flex the hair.
We'll see if she's here. She'll probably text me.
Wait, no,
I
this
just
is
looked at my phone.
My mom was driving
That's
for
not a bad
22
thing.
hours
You
into
know.
like the state up there.
She's Idaho.
Then I heard Caleb.
Idaho,
Washington.
Montana.
but Idaho
California.
is where Matt Pat lives. so
Oregon.
Yeah, that's what she's
Washington is above it.
Oh no, I don't know if she's here.
Corner.
I have no idea.
Washington is full.
She didn't say it one way or the other. She said this is gonna take some practice. I don't know what that means.
Another what?
I like the
Curtain,
break dance
child,
without
yeah.
any
He
music.
thought there was another current. I
Yeah,
said no.
that's what I was asking.
You are the other curve.
You know the sorry, Emma.
The black ones?
Emma, are you directing the chair movement?
No, we were talking about.
Wait, since most of the things are $2,
And I said only $1. We get $2.
We're talking about the curtains that opened all the Bible verses.
Oh, the best one.
Because Micah said that there was going to be another curtain.
The curtain's a special.